Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I live a couple houses down from an elementary school. When school lets out, our quiet cul-de-sac becomes chaos. Parents line the street bumper to bumper, kids crowd the sidewalks, and I pick up trash from my yard. Balloons, wrappers, homework, all sorts of garbage. If you try to get home during dismissal time, you'll sit in traffic until the parent blockade clears. There are two pickup spots: our tiny cul-de-sac with the school at the top, or the main road that runs to a baseball park. The main road is wider with street parking and two-way driving. The logical choice would be the main road, but many parents cram into our little street. We have three vehicles: my car, my roommate's car, and my husband's utility van. My husband parks his van on the street so he doesn't block our roommate. This Friday I worked from home. When I finished, I looked out the window to check my fruit tree near the driveway. That's when I saw a white Buick SUV parked in the middle of my driveway, blocking both spots. Who parks in somebody else's driveway? These parents already clog our road, but this person used my private driveway as their parking spot. I called the non-emergency police line and took pictures of the vehicle and plate. Then I got my husband's keys, backed his van up, and blocked the SUV in my driveway. I sat on my steps and waited. About 15 minutes later, a woman showed up. She had big sunglasses, diamond jewelry, and wore athleisure. She walked to her SUV, got in the driver's seat, and waved at me. She probably thought I was a homeowner's kid since I'm in my early 20s. She greeted me, hoping I didn't mind her parking there. I told her she was trespassing and asked why she would park in a private driveway. She said sorry, they were just leaving and wouldn't do it again. She barely made eye contact, even after taking off her sunglasses. I told her I didn't care about her excuses. She had no right to park on my property, and I was on the phone with the police. She said it was just for a second while picking up her daughter. I told her it didn't matter. She didn't live here, so she shouldn't park here. The police weren't answering, so I hung up and decided to mess with her. She got in her SUV and waved at me. I got in the van, blocking her, and pretended I was still on the phone. She tried backing out through a small gap between the van and my neighbor's car, too small for her Buick. Her front bumper was already scuffed, telling me she had no spatial awareness beyond her backup camera. When she backed up, I honked. I was still pretending to be on the phone. She tried again. I honked again. She looked at my grass and I thought she might try driving through my yard. I honked again. If she hit my husband's van, she would lose that collision. She got out of her SUV and came to the van. Her face was blotchy from stress. She asked if I was really calling the police. I said yes because she was illegally parked on my private property. I told her I didn't care if it was only for 5 seconds. She didn't live here and shouldn't park here. Her daughter got out of the car and I decided I'd made my point. I waited for her to get back in her SUV, then moved the van and let her out. I called the school and gave them her license plate number. Nothing will probably happen officially, but I think she'll avoid parking in someone's driveway again. The next week, the pickup line seemed more orderly and there was no white Buick near my driveway. Word must have spread about the homeowner who traps trespassers. I bought what I thought would be my dream condo in a beautiful building in one of America's major cities about 2.5 years ago. The place had everything: elevators, a rooftop pool, central air conditioning, and what seemed like a friendly community. I was happy to pay the monthly homeowner association fees, believing they would maintain these amenities and keep our building in top shape. Within months of moving in, everything started falling apart. One elevator broke down in December 2021 and stayed out of service for over a year. The rooftop air conditioning units failed during the hottest months. Most frustratingly, our community pool sat empty for 4 entire months during the summer, the very time we all needed it most. Meanwhile, our homeowner association fees kept disappearing into what seemed like a black hole. When several of us asked to see the financial records showing how our money was spent, we were met with excuses, delays, and eventually, silence. What made the situation bearable was my neighbors. Despite the deteriorating conditions, We formed a tight-knit community. We shared maintenance tips and decided to take action together by hiring attorneys for what would become a class action lawsuit against our homeowner association. But before that happened, I decided to take matters into my own hands. In my state, homeowner associations are legally required to provide financial documents to homeowners upon request. When our homeowner association repeatedly refused to show us where our money was going, I took them to small claims court. In court, I explained to the judge that I had repeatedly requested the financial documents, which was my legal right as a homeowner. The homeowner association president claimed they were still working on gathering the documents and that these things took time. I pointed out that it had been months, and the law clearly stated they must provide these documents within 30 days of request. The judge sided with me, finding in my favor and ordering the defendant to pay court filing fees of $30 plus $1 in symbolic damages. I won my case. The judge awarded me $31, the $30 filing fee plus $1 symbolic damage, since my aim wasn't to get rich but to get transparency. The victory felt sweet but short-lived. Just 3 days after my court win, the homeowner association announced a special assessment of approximately $1,000 per unit and a 10% increase in our monthly dues. According to state law, if a special assessment brings in more than 5% of the building's yearly income, 51% of owners must approve it in a vote. This assessment would bring in about 20% of yearly income, so clearly a vote was required. When questioned about this, the homeowner association president claimed the assessment fell under the emergency clause, so no vote was necessary. When I asked what the emergency was, he said it was for the elevator that had been broken since December 2021. I argued that an elevator broken for over a year hardly qualified as an emergency, as the emergency clause was meant for sudden disasters like fires or floods. The president dismissed my concerns and warned that anyone who didn't pay would have a lien placed on their unit. Sure enough, liens came down on units belonging to retirees and lower-income residents who couldn't come up with $1,000 on short notice. Our attorneys told us that despite the dispute, we needed to pay the assessment while fighting it legally. I paid mine, but I was furious about the principle. Then I learned something interesting. The homeowner association president, who was refusing to pay me my court-awarded $31, was selling his personal home for $20 million. That's when I had my petty but completely legal idea. I tried multiple times to collect the $31 judgment, asking how he would like to pay. The homeowner association president offered two options: either meeting me somewhere private to give me cash, or mailing me a satisfaction of judgment form that I would need to sign and mail back before he would send a check. I declined both options, saying that the court ordered payment and I expected to receive it promptly. When he continued to stonewall me, I went back to the courthouse. For $140, I filed a lien against his $20 million house for the $31 he owed me. This meant he couldn't sell his house until he paid me what the court had awarded. It might seem petty to spend $140 to collect $31, but this was never about the money. It was about principle. It was about a wealthy man who thought rules didn't apply to him, who helped put liens on the homes of retirees while refusing to pay his own legal obligation. When he discovered the lien, he called me immediately. He asked what I was doing, saying that I couldn't put a lien on his personal property for a homeowner association matter. I explained that I could, since the judge had amended the case to name him personally as the defendant, not the homeowner association. The court had determined that he, as an individual, owed me $31, and I was exercising my legal right to collect on that judgment. He said it was ridiculous because he was trying to sell his house. I told him that if he paid the $31 judgment, I would release the lien immediately. Finally giving in, he said he would have a check delivered to me the next day. I told him that once it cleared, I would file the release. The check arrived by courier the very next day. I deposited it, waited for it to clear, and then filed the release of Lien, and his house sold 2 weeks later. I grew up with cerebral palsy, and it taught me that Life doesn't hand out participation trophies just for showing up. Every day is a battle against my own body, but I've learned to fight with dignity. My morning routine takes twice as long as most people's. Stretching my stiff limbs, doing physical therapy exercises, and getting dressed are all small victories before my day even begins. My parents told me to keep fighting from an early age. When doctors told them I'd never walk or talk, they refused to accept that future for me. Years of physical therapy proved those doctors wrong. I walk with a walker and communicate just fine. Losing my parents in my teens was devastating, but their belief in me shaped who I am today. I recently graduated college with a social work degree, determined to help others facing similar challenges. The incident happened on a Tuesday at the grocery store. I was picking up essentials and dropped my shopping bag. While I struggled to retrieve my items from the floor, I heard it. I looked up to see a middle-aged woman tapping her foot impatiently. She ordered me to move, calling me a cripple. I tried to move faster, but my body doesn't take commands well. I apologized and tried to explain that I just needed a minute, but she wouldn't listen. She repeated her demand more forcefully, adding a cruel insult about my disability and complaining that she had places to be. My face grew hot as other shoppers started to stare. I tried again to plead for just a bit more time, but she cut me off. She loudly questioned why people like me were allowed in public if we couldn't function properly, and complained I was holding up the entire line. Her words cut deep, but I tried to stay composed. I've dealt with ignorance before, but something about her entitlement struck a nerve. I told her I had cerebral palsy and was doing my best, hoping she might show some patience. Before I could finish, she rammed her shopping cart into my walker, sending me crashing to the floor. My groceries scattered everywhere as I fell hard on my side. She made a sarcastic comment about me moving faster next time. Several people rushed to help me up. One shopper asked if I was okay and said the woman's behavior was uncalled for. Another suggested calling the manager and asked if anyone had recorded the incident. The woman, who I later dubbed Karen, walked off saying things about special treatment and how some people use their disabilities as excuses. I was more shaken than hurt. The store manager apologized and offered to have someone help me finish my shopping, but the humiliation lingered. I declined and headed home, wondering what I should have said or done differently. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the incident. Why should I accept being treated that way? I decided to file a police report for assault. The officer seemed sympathetic but warned me that without video evidence, it might be hard to pursue. The store called me a week later. A security camera had captured the entire incident and they would provide the footage. With evidence, I pushed forward with my complaint. The legal process dragged on for months. Karen turned out to be a local politician with connections. Her lawyer painted me as looking for attention or a payout. The judge seemed bored, and ultimately the case was dismissed with Karen receiving only a warning. I left the courthouse feeling defeated. The justice system had failed me again. People with disabilities are often invisible to the law, our pain dismissed as inconvenient. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the incident in my mind, feeling the humiliation all over again. Around 3 a.m., I had an idea. If the legal system wouldn't hold Karen accountable, maybe public opinion would. I uploaded the security footage to social media with a simple caption. This is what happens when people with disabilities try to exist in public spaces. The response was immediate. By morning, the video had thousands of shares. Local news stations contacted me for interviews. Disability advocacy groups reached out to offer support. I discovered this wasn't Karen's first offense. She had a history of discriminatory remarks about people with disabilities and had voted against accessibility measures in our city multiple times. I started the petition calling for her removal from office, detailing her assault on me and her history of discrimination. Within days, it had over 10,000 signatures. Karen's office called me, requesting a private meeting. I refused, telling her that anything she needed to say could be said publicly. She tried to downplay the situation, claiming she just had a bad day and suggesting we move past the incident. I responded by referencing how she had wanted me to move past her in the grocery store and declined to let this go. She said I was ruining her career over what she called a misunderstanding. I reminded her that she had assaulted me and used derogatory language, and that there was video evidence. She then asked what I wanted, money or an apology. I told her I wanted accountability, specifically for her to resign and attend sensitivity training before holding public office again. She started to protest that my demands were ridiculous, but I ended the conversation. A week later, facing pressure and negative press, Karen resigned. Her public apology was clearly written by a PR team, but it acknowledged the harm she caused to me and the disability community. The victory felt bittersweet. I hadn't set out to end someone's career, but her actions had results, just as my disability has results for me every day. I must have asked me for help on my forehead. People, mostly older folks, constantly approach me in stores thinking I work there. I don't even correct them anymore. I just help them find what they're looking for and move on. I help run a restaurant and spend a lot of time shopping for supplies, so I usually know where things are in the stores I visit. My partner saw this happening last weekend and reminded me, this isn't new. I've been unofficially working at various places for years. This made me remember the strangest case from over 20 years ago when I lived in Cincinnati. My phone number was just one digit off from a doctor's office, and I get calls meant for them. Most people would say sorry and hang up when I told them they had the wrong number, but not this one elderly man. He would call asking for rides to his and his wife's medical appointments. The doctor's office offered rides for elderly patients who couldn't drive, and this man was sure I was part of that service. I tried telling him he had the wrong number and that I didn't work for the doctor's office. The elderly man wouldn't believe me. He said he knew I was the transportation person and claimed I was trying to avoid my job. I kept telling him he needed to call the right number, but he said he'd been a patient there for 30 years and knew the number. This went on for weeks. No matter what I said, he wouldn't believe he was dialing wrong. After one call where he called me lazy, I gave up. I sighed and asked for his address and appointment time. He told me without hesitation. After hanging up, I called the real doctor's office for help. I told them about the situation, but the receptionist said that because of privacy laws, they couldn't even confirm if the couple were patients. I told her about the man calling my personal number, but she said she couldn't help. So I showed up at their house the next day, picked them up, and drove them to their appointment. When I walked into the doctor's office with them, the receptionist was shocked. She asked if I was the person she talked to on the phone yesterday, and I said yes. That's how I became an unofficial driver for this elderly couple for 2 years. Every few weeks, the grumpy old man would call and I'd show up to drive them. You'd think he would be thankful, right? Nope. He always found something to criticize. The elderly man would complain I was late, even when we got there at 9:50 for a 10 o'clock appointment, worried about traffic. When I told him we had plenty of time, he'd start complaining about my car, saying it was too hard for them to get into and asking if I had a better one. I would say sorry and tell him it was my personal car. He'd then talk about my clothes, saying I should dress better for work. Every time I reminded him I didn't work for the doctor's office, he'd ignore me. Despite his complaints, I kind of liked the situation. His grumpiness was funny and his wife was lovely. She had dementia and thought I was a family member helping them out. She would hold my hand and tell me stories about people I didn't know as if I should know them. The elderly woman would talk about family events like when Uncle Harold fell into a pond at a reunion when I was little. I would ask her to tell me more about these made-up memories, enjoying her stories. When I had to move away from Cincinnati, I was worried about them. I talked to the office manager to make sure they would set up proper rides. On my last trip with them, the office staff gave me flowers and cookies. The nurse hugged me and told me what I did was special. The office manager said they had set up their official ride service and that the couple would be okay. They asked for my contact info, which I gave them. About 6 months later, I got an email from the office manager that made me happy. The email said that Sir Grumpalot had come in with a new driver and complained the whole time. He told everyone the previous driver was better. The staff wanted me to know that, in his cranky way, he missed me. I never felt bad about helping that difficult old man and his sweet wife. I hope if my grandparents or parents Ever needed help and got confused? Someone would be kind to them. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.